His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
Shri Shri Nitai Mayapur Chandra Ki.
Jai.
Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki.
Jai.
Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki.
Jai.
Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki.
Jai.
Shri Ram Navami Mahotsava Ki.
Jai.
Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Ki. Devotees, welcome to our program for Sri Ram Navami. What a wonderful festival, wonderful occasion. So much mercy is there, and we will try and say a few words to that effect. We started this morning, actually, where we read through Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10, the first some number of verses which are explaining about Lord Ram's early days, you could say, up until the time of Mother Sita's kidnapping or apparent kidnapping. So we will carry on from that point, and first of all we'll describe the attack of Lord Ram, Hanuman, Sugriva and company on Lanka, Sri Lanka. We don't have any electricity. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, devotees, let us continue reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's see. Okay. We'll read chapter 10, 9th canto, chapter 10, the pastimes of the Supreme Lord Ramachandra. And we'll begin with verse 16. Badvo dadho raghupatir vividhadri kutai se tum kapindra karakampita buru hangai sugriva nila hanumat pramukaya anikaya lankam vibhishana drisha vishad agradagdham, which means Shukadev Goswami said, after constructing a bridge over the ocean by throwing into the water the peaks of mountains whose trees and other vegetation have been shaken by the hands of great monkeys, Lord Ramachandra went to Lanka to release Sita Devi from the clutches of Ravana, with the direction and help of Vibhishana, Ravana's brother. The Lord, along with the monkey soldiers, headed by Sugriva, Nila, and Hanuman, entered Ravana's kingdom, Lanka, which had previously been burned by Hanuman. Let us say a couple of words at this point. Let me just check our electricity supply. We don't have electricity. We'll have to do electricity prayers. Otherwise we'll conk out in the middle of everything. Yes, right, okay. So, just one point we can very briefly make about this whole pastime of throwing into the water the peaks of mountains whose trees and other vegetation have been shaken by the hands of the great monkeys. So, yeah, then Lord Ram went to Lanka, and then, well, everything just carried on from there. So one interesting point, and it's an interesting little story which I imagine many of you are familiar with. The story of Hanuman and the squirrel? Spider? Squirrel or spider. It's okay. Either way, they're small. I mean, well, we've got lots of squirrels around here. And spiders, maybe it was a big spider, but I think it was a small spider. There was one squirrel or spider? Squirrel. Yes, squirrel. हिंदी भाषा में squirrel क्या है?
Gilhari.
Gilhari. Ek Gilhari. So, he was a devotee. He was a devotee. It's not only human beings who can be devotees. Hanuman is a great devotee. Nila Sugriva, they're great devotees. They're not human, although they speak Sanskrit better than the majority of us speak kitchen Hindi, I think. So anyway, he's a devotee and he wanted to render some service in this whole endeavor of building the bridge. So he's a squirrel, he's not big. Maybe he could pick up a few pebbles. Did you notice? We got some pebbles. Who are they from Lanka? Is that where we got them from? Near the Rameshwaram temple somewhere. Anyway, did you see them? Yeah. So anyway, maybe he's a squirrel, so maybe he could lift one of these. Otherwise, some sand and tiny little pebbly things, and throw them in. And they were also floating. And that was his service, and he was very excited and inspired to be able to render some service to his Lord. But Hanuman objected because Hanuman and his associates are running up and down with boulders and even mountain peaks and hurling them out into the ocean, and they're also floating, but they're really big. And the squirrel is just doing, throwing maybe a few of these pebbles, or like that, some sand. And Hanuman, the problem was that Hanuman's running up and down, and he would almost step on the squirrel. And so he had to watch out. Where is the squirrel? Gilhari. Kahahe. Yes. Where is the squirrel? Otherwise, I'm going to squash him. I'm going to squish him. So it was interrupting his running up and down and, his general effort that he was making. So he stopped and he spoke to the squirrel and said, if you want to help, if you really want to help, stop trying to help. Just step out of the way while we do the real service here. And the poor little squirrel was very disappointed. But Lord Ram heard that, what Hanuman said, and he chastised Hanuman that according to his capacity, the squirrel is doing no less than you. So please don't treat him like this. You must respect him and his service. So therefore, it's just a little lesson we can learn at the beginning here, that we have to respect all the devotees and the service they render. Some devotees do big service, like Madhavi Prabhu does big service for many years, 50 years plus. Someone else just does a little something. Maybe someone else cleans the floor. Someone else maybe washes the pots. And it's not, in a certain sense, it's not as substantial and like that. But the Lord sees service basically in terms of the capacity of the servant. And if someone is giving 100% of their capabilities in a small way, and someone else is giving 100% of their capabilities in a big type of way, they should be equally respected. And particularly, we should not get proud if we happen somehow or other to be given some more apparently significant service. So let's carry on. bear that in mind. It's very important. I'll just read the translations here. After entering Lanka, the monkey soldiers led by chiefs like Sugriva, Nila, and Hanuman occupied all the sporting houses, granaries, treasuries, palace doorways, city gates, assembly houses, palace frontages, and even the resting houses of the pigeons. When the city's crossroads, platforms, flags, and golden water pots on its domes were all destroyed, the entire city of Lanka appeared like a river disturbed by a herd of elephants. The language is so beautiful. Right, so when Ravana, the master of the Rakshasas, you know what a Rakshasa is? Yes, cannibal, eater of human beings. When Sita was apparently kidnapped and taken back to Lanka, and Ravana was trying to sort of coerce her into marrying him. He had hundreds of wives or female associates, so that he was particularly really impressed by Mother Sita's beauty and her qualifications in so many ways. So he's trying to get her to agree, but she wouldn't agree at all. So he told her, I give you 1 month. If you don't agree after 1 month, I will eat you for breakfast. And he was not joking. He was completely serious. So this is, as human beings go, it's one thing for people to eat meat, just, in general. But cannibals, shoo, that's another level down the scale, way down the scale. So, and he was the master of the Rakshasas. So when he saw the disturbances created by the monkey soldiers, he called for Nikumba Kumba Dum Raksha Durla Mukha, Surantaka, Narantaka, and other Rakshasas, and also his son Indrajit. Thereafter he called for Prahasta Atikaya Vikampana, and finally Kumbhakarna. We won't get into it too much, but Kumbhakarna was massive, gigantic Rakshasa monster. A monster, yeah. When he ran onto the battlefield with his hands, he was just grabbing handfuls, because he's like a giant, handfuls of monkeys and his own soldiers, and just eating them on the way out, snacking on the way out to the battle, without discriminating who it is. Sorry about that. Then he induced all his followers, this is Ravana, to fight against the enemies. This name Ravana can be translated in different ways, but one way, probably the most appropriate, is one who makes others cry. Yeah. He was just so abusive and universally abusive. Lord Ramachandra, surrounded by Lakshmana and monkey soldiers like Sugriva, Hanuman, Gandamada, Nila, Angada, Jambavan, and Panasa, attacked the soldiers of the Rakshasas, who were fully equipped with various invincible weapons like swords, lances, bows, prasas, rishtis, shakti, arrows, khadgas, and tomarans. So, yes. But Angada And the other commanders of the soldiers of Ramachandra faced the elephants, infantry, horses, and chariots of the enemy, and hurled against them big trees, mountain peaks, clubs and arrows. They were not so well equipped in terms of weaponry, but a big tree, a mountain peak, if you got one of those on your head, you'd be in serious trouble, wouldn't you? But otherwise they didn't have the, sort of up-to-date weaponry that the soldiers of Ravana had. Thus, the soldiers of Lord Ramachandra killed Ravana's soldiers who had lost all good fortune because, listen to this, because Ravana had been condemned by the anger of Mother Sita. This is very interesting and very important, that Ravana, of course, was condemned by the anger of Mother Sita, but not just Ravana. His, dependent soldiers who were under his direction and, he's maintaining them, they were also condemned by her anger, not against them, but against Ravana. It's a very important point. Women are known as the fair sex. And, of course, traditionally in Krishna consciousness, we have this idea that men should protect ladies like this. And particularly the husband should protect his wife. Well, this is just, one of the great cornerstones of Krishna conscious sort of social considerations, you could say. But Mother Sita, she was extremely pious and extremely chaste and dedicated to Lord Ram. And when Lord Ram was exiled, exiled or told he was being exiled, Lord Ram then went to Mother Sita and told her, I've been exiled for 14 years or so. So anyway, you'll have to stay here and I'll see you after all those years. But Mother Sita, she said, when are we going? She didn't say, when are you going? She said, when are we going? And actually Lord Ram tried to convince her not to go, but she would have nothing of that at all. And among numerous other things, she said to Lord Ram, what sin have I committed that I cannot go with my husband? What have I done to deserve to be restricted like that? And she said that I have never thought about another man as do women of lower classes. So Mother Sita was extremely powerful, but her power was not in skilled with weapons or just being physically powerful. I'm sure you've seen photos here and there of these ladies who do bodybuilding. And I think any one of them with one hand could probably kill any of the men here. But we're not talking about that sort of power. We're talking about a different type of power. And that power at least here in this, the idea of the power is that when someone is that, when a lady is that pious and that chaste, and someone offends them, as Ravana drastically offended Mother Sita, the karma they get, the bad karma they get for offending a lady like her. I mean, of course, there aren't any ladies sort of so much exactly like her, but any pious and chaste lady, the bad karma is extremely severe. I mean, they'll die. Their lifetime will be shortened. And not just them, but here it's pointed out, the soldiers of Ravana, those who were attached to Ravana, working for him, dependent on him, being maintained by him in his team, they were also condemned. And they were killed effectively by Mother Sita, but she didn't raise a finger. Thereafter, when Ravana, the king of the Rakshasas, observed that his soldiers had been lost, he was extremely angry. Thus he mounted his airplane, which was decorated with flowers, and proceeded toward Lord Ramachandra, who sat on the effulgent chariot brought by Matali, the chariot driver of Indra. Then Ravana struck Lord Ramachandra with sharp arrows. The tension is building up, devotees. Now listen to this. This is a good one. This is a really good one. Lord Ramachandra said to Ravana, "You are the most abominable of the man-eaters." It's one thing to be a man-eater. I mean, you're almost off the scale completely. It's just too bad. But to be the most abominable of the man-eaters, my God, it's pretty much inconceivable how bad the position of Ravana was. You are the most abominable of the man-eaters. Indeed, you are like their stool. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. You resemble a dog, for as a dog steals eatables from the kitchen in the absence of the householder, in my absence you kidnap my wife, Sita Devi. Therefore, as Yamaraj punishes sinful men, I shall also punish you. You are most abominable, sinful, and shameless. Today, therefore, I, whose attempt never fails, shall punish you. It's just a very abbreviated description of the battle and now this confrontation, but everything's there in essence. So here we go, devotees. Are you ready? You're sitting down. That's good. You're all sitting down. Fasten your seatbelts. Because now, wow, it's really going to become dramatic. After thus rebuking Ravana, Lord Ramachandra fixed an arrow to his bow, aimed at Ravana, and released the arrow, which pierced Ravana's heart like a thunderbolt. Upon seeing this, Ravana's followers raised a tumultuous sound, crying, "Alas, alas, what has happened? What has happened?" As Ravana, vomiting blood from his 10 mouths, fell from his airplane, just as a pious man falls to earth from the heavenly planets, when the results of his pious activities are exhausted. So there you go, devotees and friends. That's the end of Ravana. But let's continue on. Thereafter, all the women whose husbands had fallen in the battle, headed by Mandodari, the wife or main wife of Ravana, came out of Lanka. Continuously crying, they approached the dead bodies of Ravana and the other Rakshasas, striking their breasts in affliction because their husbands had been killed by the arrows of Lakshman. The women embraced their respective husbands and cried piteously in voices appealing to everyone. And now this is Mandodari speaking, addressing the dead body of Ravana. "O my Lord, O Master, you epitomize trouble for others, and therefore you were called Ravana. But now that you are defeated, we also are defeated. For without you the state of Lanka has been conquered by the enemy. To whom will it go for shelter?" And she continues, "O greatly fortunate one, you came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita." This is the same point again about the power of Sita. "Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to this state, having been killed by Lord Ramachandra." And Prabhupada gives a whole purport about chastity and like that for women and how to become an ideal woman. I can tell you a little story about Srila Prabhupada, just a very short story. Prabhupada in his household days was doing business. He was in the pharmaceuticals business. And he would travel around by train around like northern India, basically, trying to market his pharmaceutical products. One day he was traveling, he was in a compartment on the train, and there was one, you could say, very traditional girl there. Very traditional. Married girl, young married woman. So she was wearing a sari to start off with, and the sari was over her head. Yeah, not just over her shoulders to warm her shoulders, but right over her head, so, you couldn't see her face very clearly. And then one very modern girl, and we're talking about, I don't know, the 30s, and I mean the 1930s, something like that. So one very modern girl got on, dressed, in some very modern way, and she thought she was really, as they say, really cool. And this traditional girl was just like, really, who cares about people like her? So she came and sat down in the same compartment, this modern girl. And after a few minutes sitting there, she grabbed the end of the sari of the traditional girl from her head and pulled it off her head and laughed. And the traditional girl pulled it back over her head and just sat there. And the modern girl, then a couple of minutes later, pulled the sari off the other girl's head and laughed like, yeah, just really clever. So, and the traditional girl pulled it back over her head and just sat there. And then third time, And you know what happened the third time? The traditional girl slapped her so hard. I would have to the modern girl's head almost did a 360-degree spin. I mean, she really walloped her. And the modern girl, in a state of shock, when she could compose herself, she got up and went to another compartment. And Prabhupada said that he congratulated the traditional girl. Anyway, so here Mandodari, who in her own way she's actually, there's like a list, a scriptural list of the main or the most prominent chaste ladies. And Sita Devi's there, but Mandodari is also, she's also there. So anyway, she's chastising her husband, her dead husband, that you couldn't understand. You thought that you were just going to enjoy life with another woman and another other woman. He had so many. So you thought you were being really clever, doing a good thing. But you just didn't understand that because Sita is of the type of character and quality that she is, you were just condemning yourself to death. Very, very, very soon you're going to die. Which is what has happened, yes, because of her curse. Yeah. So Prabhupada says, let me just read this. Not only was Mother, this is part of Prabhupada's purport, not only was Mother Sita powerful, but any woman who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita can also become similarly powerful. There are many instances of this in the history of Vedic literature. Whenever we find a description of ideal chaste women, Mother Sita is among them. Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, was also very chaste. Similarly, Draupadi was one of 5 exalted chaste women. As a man must follow great personalities, great men, like Lord Brahma and Narada Muni, a woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, and Draupadi. By staying chaste and faithful to her husband, a woman enriches herself with supernatural power. Anyway, ladies and men, think about this. This is really, such an important point. And she continues. She's sort of getting stronger and stronger with what she's saying. O pleasure of the Rakshasa dynasty, because of you the state of Lanka and also we ourselves now have no protector. By your deeds you have made your body fit to be eaten by vultures and your soul fit to go to hell. She understands, even though she's speaking sort of respectfully to him, but she understands what is right and what is wrong. Shri Nitai Mayapur Chandra. Okay, so then Lord Ram hands over Lanka to Vibhishana. He becomes the king. Actually, on the last night, before the last day, Lord Ramachandra went to Ravana, and he said, Ravana, listen, we can make, you could say, we can make a deal. We can make an arrangement which will be beneficial for all concerned, including you. He said, Lord Ram said to Ravana, just give me Sita back. That's all. That's all. Just give me Sita back. And I will bring all your dead soldiers and relatives, I'll bring them all back to life. And you can rule Lanka. You can rule. And you keep all your wealth. Because Ravana was fantastically wealthy. So you keep all your wealth. You keep everything. And I will make all your soldiers and other family members, etc., I'll make them forget that we were ever enemies. And I'll make them think that we have always been friends. And we will be friends. But just give Sita back. Ravana, unfortunately, answered, no. That's sort of the last of a multitude of mistakes that he made. So anyway, let's just move on a bit to the sort of end of the story. Summarize things. I've jumped forward to verse 51. Traitayam vartamanayam kalakrita samobhavat rame rajani dharmagye sarvabhuta sukhabahe. Lord Ramachandra became king during Treta Yuga, but because of his good government, the age was like Satya Yuga. Treta Yuga is already very good. They call it like a silver age. Satya Yuga is like a golden age. So because of his good government, even though it was like the second standard of age, not the highest, but it was like Satya Yuga, the golden age. Everyone was religious and completely happy. Listen to this. Nadi vyadi jara glani dukkha shoka bhayaklama mrityus chanichatam nasid rame rajan yadhokshaje. When Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the king of this world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. And some of you are someone who might hear that, might think, what? Come on. This is like taking it too far. But it's not. It's actually true. Let me read the purport here, just a very short purport. All these facilities existed because of Lord Ramachandra's presence as the king of the entire world. A similar situation could be introduced immediately, even in this age called Kali, the worst of all ages. It is said, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna descends in this Kali Yuga in the form of his holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If we chant offenselessly, Ram and Krishna are still present in this age. The kingdom of Ram was immensely popular and beneficial, and the spreading of this Hare Krishna movement can immediately introduce a similar situation even in this Kali Yuga. Okay, I'm just going to read another 2 verses. They're describing, first verse, now, Lord Ram, his character, and then Mother Sita. Ekapatni Pratadaro Rajarshi Charitashichi Swadharman Griha Mediyam Shikshayan Swam Acharat. Lord Ramachandra took a vow to accept only one wife and have no connection with any other women. He was a saintly king, and everything in his character was good, untinged by qualities like anger. He taught good behavior for everyone, especially for householders, in terms of Varnashram Dharma. Thus he taught the general public by his personal activities. And Prabhupada gives fairly substantial purport. The main point that he makes there is that Lord Ram is the ideal husband when his wife was endangered, severely endangered. Prabhupada makes the point, he has all mystic powers, Lord Ram. He could just like, literally like that, manifest 100 Sitas, or 1,000, or 1,000,000. But he didn't do that. He personally went and underwent great difficulty, fighting for days. He's God, so he's never in danger, really. But in a certain sense, in danger, people trying to kill him, like all day for some days. But he did that to save, to protect his faithful wife, Sita. He could have done what the current day leaders would do, is tell the young boys, just many of them just out of school, some of them like teenagers still, that who have joined the army, okay, you go and save Sita, and when you've saved her, report back to me here, in the capital, in my very comfortable quarters. But he didn't. He went himself and saved her. Great difficulty, great danger, all simply to rescue Sita, because he was not interested in taking over Lanka, like to increase his empire or something like that. He just wanted to rescue Sita. So that was the character, that is the character of Lord Ram. And then verse 55, Premna nivritya shilena prashraya vanata sati Vyahriya chabhavagya Bhartu Sita Haran Mamaha. Mother Sita was very submissive, faithful, shy, and chaste, always understanding the attitude of her husband. Thus, by her character and her love and service, she completely attracted the mind of the Lord. And Prabhupada comments, as Lord Ramachandra is the ideal husband, Mother Sita is the ideal wife. Such a combination makes family life very happy. Yad yada chariti shreshtas tad eve tarojana. Whatever example a great man sets, common people follow. If the kings, the leaders, and the brahmins, the teachers, would set forth the examples we receive from Vedic literature, the entire world would be like heaven. Indeed, there would no longer be hellish conditions within this material world. Sri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman King. Sri Ram Navami Mahotsava King. So we have some little time left. Let us humbly request Madhavi Prabhu to say some words. Can someone give him the microphone?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Abhijnana Tremendasya Hinanjana Swagaya Chakshurabhuritam Vena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Vidamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padagamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Bhagavatam Tam Sajivam Savetam Savadutam Pridana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Savana Lita Shishakam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Purnamami Priye Panchakavasya Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. So we're reading a little bit yesterday evening on the early part of the Ramayana, and it was an interesting section we stopped at, so we'll just read a few more lines. This was talking about the appearance of Lord Brahmachandra, Lord Lakshmana, Lord Bharat, and Lord Shutrugna, who were the Chaturvyuha. But along with the Lord, other personalities appeared in order to serve the Lord as his associates and his warriors, practically speaking. So this is here. Meanwhile, Lord Brahma gave the following orders to the demigods. Quote, Lord Vishnu will soon appear in human society, and so all of you should beget partial manifestations of yourselves to assist him. I want you to create a race of divine monkeys by uniting with the apsaras, female monkeys, yakshas, nagas, vyadaras, and kinnaras. These offspring must be capable of assuming any form at will, and they must possess other mystic powers as well. In addition, they must be very intelligent and must be highly skilled in the use of weapons. They must have strength equal to yourselves, and they must possess ethereal bodies. After receiving this order, Indra begot Vali, Surya begot Sugriva, Brihaspati begot Pitara, Kuvera begot Gangamadana, Vishwakarma begot Nala, and Agni begot Nila. The Ashwini Kumars begot Mainda and Prasita. Varuna begot Chushena, and Vayu begot Hanuman. Besides these principal monkeys, many thousands were born to assist Lord Vishnu in his mission. All of them were gigantic like mountains, and they were exceedingly eager to fight with Raja. Like the demigods who begot them, these monkeys, who were born just after conception, and were so powerful that they could agitate the ocean with their impetuous energy. There were actually three classes of beings created by the demigods. Formerly, Jambavan, the king of bears, had emanated from Lord Brahma's mouth as he was yawning. These bears were one class, and the other two classes were monkeys, one of which had long tails like those of cows. There were more than 10 million of these bears and monkeys, and so the earth became overrun with them as they wandered through the forest, eating wild fruit and various kinds of roots. Meanwhile, after completion of the Prustrasti sacrifice, the demigods who had personally come to accept the offerings, the assisting priests, Rishya, Shringa, and Shanta, as well as all the invited guests, returned to their respective residences. So this particular section, it describes how so many personalities expanded from the demigods, just like in the case of Lord Krishna's appearance. Some of the demigods expanded in order to assist the Lord. So this is what happens whenever Krishna comes. The demigods and others take advantage of the opportunity. They take advantage of the direction of the Lord in order to come and to participate in his pastimes. So that is actually what is happening at present in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya has come very recently. When you consider 432,000 years, 5,000 years is like yesterday, even less than yesterday. So we have appeared, manifested, just after the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, ultimately in order to assist him in his pastimes of saving the world. And just like Lord Ramachandra is saving the world from the demons, so similarly Lord Chaitanya is saving us from our demonic tendencies, simply by bestowing upon us the wonderful mercy of the Hare Krishna mantra.